What is up, everybody? This is Edward back with another video, another episode of Everybody Hates Black Men. I'm your host, Edward Anderson. I want to give my thoughts and my opinion on
Nice opinion, but there's just one small problem with it. Who asked? Like, genuinely, who asked? Who gave you the talking stick?
accountable commentary and Dr. Thunder. You already know I mess with Dr. Thunder heavy. And I definitely support, the message accountable commentary is putting out there. I probably shared accountable commentary probably more than Dr. Thunder, to be honest with you. Because a lot of y'all are generally going to lean more into accountable commentary type of commentary, literally, um, more than Dr. Thunder's. But shout out to Dr. Thunder. Dr. Thunder brings a lot of legitimacy to the type of stuff that we say. He does a lot of, let's say, counter work. When people like to basically at the macro level try to merge our space with, like, fresh and fit, which to me are clowns. They try to merge what we say with the frat boy sphere and the black manosphere, whether you claim the black manosphere or not, the black side of YouTube and what we're doing, that is very different than the frat boy sphere. And most folks don't even really pay attention to us too deep. Um, and to me, I like it that way to a certain extent. And there's that. But let's jump right into it. So, accountable commentary and Dr. Thunder have been making. I believe, from what I'm understanding, Dr. Thunder made the video first, then accountable commentary responded, and then Dr. Thunder has responded again. I've looked at a couple of stuff here and there when it comes to it. I haven't listened to both because, Dr. Thunder is doing like 3 hour streams, and I don't feel like spending the time on that. But I listen to both of these channels. I understand where both of these dudes are coming from, what both of their missions are. At least enough of the history accountable commentary is put out there. And Dr. Thunder has kind of said, what his stuff is. We're familiar with him, on my side of it. It's as far as the channels I deal with. So I can definitely speak intelligently about this situation. And some of y'all have been emailing me and asking me about it. So here's my 10 minutes, and then you all can go with what you will. I didn't think Dr. Thunder would create a response to the quote unquote response, but he did, and we are where we are. So let's jump right into it. So the main crux of the situation is that Dr. Thunder does not agree with accountable commentary's hard line with mainly saying all black women are bad, aka all Keishas are bad. That's kind of the crux of what the issue is. And to me, and somebody said this in my Discord and I agree with that, this is kind of splitting hairs. Here's the reality. There are certain people that are not going to play the some but not all game. They're not going to play the game of the majority of the pool is bad, you know, and therefore it's like liquid. You don't pour gasoline in. Let's say you have 50 gallons of water, and you pour 1 gallon of gasoline in 50 gallons. You could probably drink it a little bit and get sick but not die. But who's gonna do that if they know gasoline is in there? Also, I don't think it was a lot. I'm not. It's either Elijah Muhammad or it was Malcolm X. That said, one of the Nation of Islam people said it. He said, if a man will drink dirty water if that's all he has to drink, but a man will choose clean water if he has a choice every time. And that's kind of the mentality accountable commentary has. It's well over 50% of black women. It's a problem or hit what I call a level, because I look at things as degrees. So they are loyal to the mentality of the problem, even if they're not 100% a problem. As far as like the degrees to which black women are a problem, black women clearly lean towards this mentality. Black women have a domineering matriarchal standpoint, and the few women that are really not on that, I personally call them the Black Female Accountability Department. You've seen some of those channels, and I'm not just talking about the grifters, but folks that are legit on that. Those tend to be few and far between. And before Kevin Samuels, you really didn't see those channels because they would just basically be bullied off the internet. That's a relatively new thing. But for the most part, in the cycle of doing of us doing this type of content, those women, if they would even show middle ground to black men, which means they weren't fully on board with black men, but they were saying, they were doing the both sides game, which is something that dudes like kind of commentary don't even deal with anyway. And quite frankly, I don't play that game either. They would be bullied off of the internet, and in my opinion, I'll get to that in a second. But that's where he's coming from with it. So we're not gonna play. He's not necessarily, obviously, anybody who's doing this, growing the channel is something that you want, whether it's money, whether it's your message. But the truth is, accountable commentary does not post enough to really warrant that he's really a huge. He's got two channels, and he doesn't post enough to really warrant that his main primary goal here is to make money. That probably is a factor, like anything else. If the money is there to be made, why not? Why say no to it if people are going to support you and support the message, because it helps you sustain the message? But that's clearly not his primary goal. His goal is to put it out there, whether, quite frankly, black men want to hear it or not, because he's right, and eventually they'll come to his opinion. He has kind of said that, at least as far as some dudes pushing back versus they don't push back as much anymore. As far as his audience, I know he does a lot of posts on his Patreon, but it's not the same YouTube games that could typically get played. I know Dr. Thunder's not really in that camp either, but I'll get to that in a second. So my point is his stuff is not necessarily quote unquote diluted by the what do I need to say in order to get a female audience. If he has probably a 2% female audience, he probably thinks he's doing something wrong. And he's kind of alluded to that. He has made it very clear that his channel is not for black women, and his channel is for black men, empowering black men, letting black men what's out here, putting his opinion out there with that. He's been very clear with that. And when you have that mentality, dudes are not about to parse words. They're not about to mix words. David Carroll was like that. R.I.P. David Carroll. And we had a couple of people that were like that. It's actually not a lot of black men that are really like that, like it used to be, which is one of the many reasons why his channel has caught some growth, because people are wanting to look for that hardline content. Am I 100% on every little thing he says? No, but I don't agree with every little thing anybody says. I'm probably more in the middle of these two, but these two, where in the middle of these two, but the thing is, there needs to be that conversation out there. There needs to be that conversation out there. And my thing, what I would say to Dr. Thunder, if I was, and I've talked to Dr. Thunder, you already know he's been in my chat and everything. What I would say to Dr. Thunder, if Dr. Thunder was in my chat and this was a live video and I saw him in here, I would say this straight up. Like, here's the thing, and I want to be clear about this because accountable commentary is already alluded to. He's not playing games with Keisha's at all. So even the good cop bad cop, the good cop bad cop thing, I believe he doesn't like, because it insinuates that the overall goal is to get black women to act right, when in reality the goal is for black men to do what's in their best interests. He thinks that's without dealing with Keisha, but to be unapologetic about doing what's in your best interest and don't worry about Keisha at all, period. But that being said, what I would say to Dr. Thunder is, you want channels like that, even for the mentality Dr. Thunder has, where all of them are not bad. The reality is, you need a credible threat. I've said this for a long time now, and I'm gonna say it again, way before I even knew who accountable commentary was, and way before his channel was even around. You need credible threat people. You need people that, quite frankly, have left the building, because it has to, because saying you're gonna leave, BGS Ignore has said it. You never can really, black women don't respect you until you break up with them. And so for the guys that want to quote unquote negotiate, or they're more invested than others, what I would say to those guys is, you see channels like his as a problem, but I would argue channels like his is it's not just necessary with what you're dealing with the mission you have, which is to basically have a conversation with black women, which is not necessarily what my mission is, by the way. But for the guys, because that's, and I say all that because that was the the big thing. Most black men that were really avid Kevin Samuels subscribers or Kevin Samuels followers was they wanted black women to change. They really weren't. Some people supported it more because the message got out there, but a lot of them they wanted black women to change. Most of the people that were super chatting to Kevin very hard, very heavy, and you see that in the Dennis Sperlings, you see that in the lead attorneys, you see that in that side. They will call black women out, but they don't really have this mentality of, yeah, there needs to be, this cannot be fixed. And at this point, they don't have an SYSBM mentality. They don't have that mentality. They're not willing to take that step for a variety of reasons. I know Dr. Thunder is married. I know lead attorney. He didn't. He said he didn't intend to create a female audience. His audience was for men, but women gravitated towards him. So he went. He wanted to accommodate that audience, and I think he's balanced it out fairly well. To be honest with you, and you see a lot of these Kevin people that's kind of really connected to Kevin Samuels. Not saying Dr. Thunder is, but I'm just giving an example. He's more on that side. Mediocre tutorial reviews. Women are a part of their commentary. And to be honest with you, Dr. Thunder probably has less women that follow him than any of these other folks I aforementioned name. But for guys like that, honestly, there's not enough channels like Accountable Commentary, to be honest. Shout out to Only Logical, but he's relatively small. I would consider myself more on that side, more unapologetic, and more black men really need. Because as far as I'm concerned, I've said it very clear. If the black community has to be a gynocracy in order for the black community to survive, the black community doesn't need to survive. That's where I'm at with it. So my thing is, until we're having a conversation about number one, the acknowledgement on the BS that was done, and then number two, like, oh, some basically conversation is not going to be had by black women. I'm not even going to put out there like, oh, I'm willing to hear it, because truth be told, they've demonstrated black women, most black women will they will go out before they actually do what I'm looking for. They're not doing. It's essentially with like white people wanting to let go of white supremacy, i.e., they're not. So even we're not even gonna have that conversation. But my point is, you need channels like that. You need channels like David Carroll. And Accountable Commentary is not as bad as David Carroll. Minister Jap used to kind of serve that role, but Minister Jap has certain tendencies, and he quite frankly has quite a bit of females that actually listen to him, and that's fine. But my Minister Jab used to serve that role. David Carroll was pretty much the pinnacle of what that role is, and quite frankly, Accountable Commentary, although he doesn't go as hard as David Carroll does, there's only one David Carroll, but he's gonna be the closest thing you're gonna get to. That just is, and this is why I don't share the channel as much, because quite frankly, Accountable Commentary is bigger than me. He don't need me to share his videos, and people that listen to me already know who he is, i.e., the videos they put in the Discord. So that's fine, but that's one of the reasons why his channel is growing. So this idea of he's too harsh, you need if you're gonna have that conversation with them, with black women, there needs to be credible threats. There needs to be credible threats that dudes will go that route, that channels like that will grow, and once they go that route, that's, you've lost them. And quite frankly, because dude, Accountable Commentary is only really mimicking what dudes are seeing on the ground. He's not saying things that are not being said on the ground. I mean, it is what it is. So this thing about, well, as black men, we don't need to. There's not enough black men like Accountable Commentary on this app, or quite frankly, in on social media. There's not enough black men that are holding the line like it needs to be held, saying, we know what's up, we know what you did, there is not going to be a reset, we're not going to be playing this game where we're going to have a conversation. No, it's replacement time, regardless of what that is. That period, like there is no talk, because quite frankly, they're not gonna, the stuff that they did. Even if I say, and here's my thing, this is where the dividing line I think gets real easy for me. Even if I'm willing to say, okay, what black men have gone through, that can be talked about and reset. Let's say I am willing to say that. What black boys have had to go through is unforgivable. That's unforgivable. That's unforgivable because black boys, because black women have these quote unquote sexual, which we know is BS by the way, but to the point that I'm willing to entertain that. You have these whatever sexual grievances with black men, whatever, fine. What about the boys though? What about when I say boys? I'm talking, let's say 12 and under. What did they do? Because you can't, because contrary to popular belief, you, because anything you want to talk about when it comes to black girls, oh well, you weren't around. You chose that with the dude you chose to have a kid with. You could have been married, you didn't want to. You could have solidified that. You did that to your daughter. Most of the time, these dudes are not bouncing off their daughters. You be keeping them away from their kids. That is something you do as a woman, as a legally custody custodial parent. You do that. You're just as complicit in that. So other than that, what are we really talking about? You don't really have anything. You don't. You don't. But politically, economically, socially, culture, we got a lot of stuff on y'all with boys. That's the one thing black women can't get past. They can't get past that. And that's the one thing a lot of guys are more on the purple pill side can't get past. That's why for the most part they don't talk about it. And so it's a very easy line. Even if you willing to say, all right, men are supposed to give blah blah blah, the Christian thing does that. There is no solution to what they do and continue to do today to black boys. The indoctrination. They just get what they reap what they sow. If we're gonna have a Christian context, they get the men that they sow by keeping the fathers away, by doing all the stuff that we already know happens. I don't need to repeat it. And so, and I know this is sound like I'm more defending and I'm on the side of accountable commentary. I'm gonna give the other side in a minute, but I want to be very clear because there's a lot of channels that are more on the side of Dr. Thunder's kind of end of it. That that's versus. There's really no channel that's really gonna go in as hard. I mean, I'm probably one of the closest ones that will go as hard and go as hard as accountable. I mean, for real, to sacrifice views for that, and that needs to really kind of be said. I'm really one of the closest ones that's gonna be willing to do that, and I don't even go as far. But my point is that this stuff needs to be said. And this thing about trying to talk to them nice, nah. Because they don't respect that. First of all, they don't respect that anyway. And second of all, our stuff is not about them. This space is not about black women. This space is supposed to be for black men. Ultimately, the goal is for black men to make whatever decision they want to make, whether I agree with it or not, but them to do it with eyes wide open. That's the goal. For them to stop feeling like they got to do something as an obligation to a community that's not obligated to them. That is the goal. Whether you want to call it red pill, whether you want to call it empowering black men to make decisions with eyes wide open and for them to be focused on what is benefiting them. Because truth be told, if black men, if you're going to say who is going to be more benevolent with power, black men have demonstrated will be that. It's better to have it in our hands and us making decisions than women. Because all black women, all they know how to do is take. That's all they know how to do. And it's very clear. I mean, I don't know what else needs to be seen. That being said, me spending 19 minutes on the accountable commentary side, and again, this is not me, oh, I'm going to talk to Dr. Thunder, then I'm going to switch and talk to accountable commentary. That's not what I'm doing. But what I will say is, and again, that's why I wanted to say in the beginning of the video that I believe Dr. Thunder was the one that kind of said something first, and the accountable commentary responded, because that's kind of important. So it wasn't like, okay, somebody just pulled their stuff out of a hat and said, all right, I don't like let me put this dude out here because I don't particularly like what he says. Look, I understand. So on the other side, of it, and this is for people to kind of have the mentality, because I've had people try to come at me about, any little, like I literally have had a black woman on my panel, and it's usually the same one. Shout out to Kareem, once a year. And you got people that, because I'm not saying all Keishas are bad or blah blah blah, because I'm speaking more to the cultural algorithm than I am individual people. Because truth be told, there's a lot of black men that are guy, loyal to the gynocracy too. And here's the thing: there's this mentality that if you don't agree with me, I just can't deal with you at all. There's degrees to agreeing with somebody and not agreeing with somebody. And you have a lot of dudes that they have this mentality where, and I get the frustration, because quite frankly, we this conversation has been said for too long, and too many black men. It's very obvious that there's a lot of black men, and Dr. Thunder is married to a black female. Pretty much has a good marriage. Definitely he wanted to be married to a black woman. There's a lot of dudes that don't even have nothing close to what he got, and they're gonna go down with the Titanic. They've just made that choice, and for people like that, I'm like, yo, stop wasting other people's time. Like, for real, you got dudes that they ain't got no reason to be trying to they're not in like a marriage that works or anything like that. They are literally on the outside looking in, and somehow they're carrying water for black women like none of this stuff has happened, and they don't acknowledge nothing. Now Dr. Thunder acknowledges a lot of what's going on, but ultimately, um it needs to be understood. What needs to be understood is people gonna have their opinions, and people have a right to challenge their opinions. But a lot of dudes, they kind of get lost in this commentary, and they get on the revenge tip. That's my thing. Is I'm gonna always tell black men, revenge is not the right way to go. And you got a lot of audience members that they have this revenge streak, when in reality, the way to go is indifference. Move on, release yourself, because even when you're in revenge, you're just trading obligation to black women to obligation for quote unquote justice, or for your perceived slights. They are who they are, accept who they are, because even when you're on this revenge streak, you tend to not, it's kind of an acceptance of this is not who they are, and so I'm gonna correct them, or I'm going to make sure that I'm going to make it so they're harmed, or they go through whatever I went through. And this is why I don't get real petty when it comes to dealing with talking to about black women. You have a lot of people, yeah, yeah, that's what you get. Yeah, you getting what you deserve. I don't have that mentality, because to me, the real goal is to release black men from the obligation of what they think they should have to black women. And you're just trading obligation for revenge. Now that doesn't mean that people got to be nice about how they say it. You can say what you say with absolute directness and the fury of what it needs to be said. But sometimes I kind of get that vibe that it's or that feeling vibe, or that sense that it's, yeah, this was done to me, and I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna get mine. I'm gonna get mine, and I'm gonna make sure, like the goal is to turn all black men against black women. I don't when I make my content, I don't think about doing that. I don't think, well, the goal is to make them look as bad as I can. I'm just covering the news, and I'm covering the news what nobody else wants to say. We have a cultural problem in the black community. Black women are the main ones in most aspects of that. This basically pushing that culture. And the real issue is black men are not drawing real strong red lines saying that you can be dropped off. You can be replaced. Too many black men are trying to fight for the soul of black women without understanding that. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Black women don't want to be black. And that's not something, black men are not capable of fixing that. There's nothing you can do as a black man to fix a female that's on that, even if it's to very little degrees. Once they're on that, that is only something they can fix. All the stuff they do, all the crash out stuff they do, that is a reflection of that. They don't want to be black, and they'll either manifest in direct commentary to you, or they'll or a confrontation with you, or they'll just have these like crash outs that are like them crashing out on a patriarchy that doesn't exist, when in actuality they're crashing out on their blackness. So sometimes people are losing the plot. And that's one thing I liked about David Carroll. Is harsh and on point. And people say harsh. I hate even using that term, but as direct as he was, he didn't lose the plot. This is one of the reasons why David Carroll used to always come at black men too. Because a big part of why black women do what they do is because black men have this kind of obsession with them rather than actually moving on. That being said, too, people are going to have difference of opinion, and people have to leave room for that. People have to leave room for that. Unfortunately, it's way too many black men this loyal to wear black to black women for no reason. And so going full bad cop is always not going to work. Like, and I'm not even talking about getting black women to change. The good cop bad cop thing is gonna be necessary to get black men to really understand. Because here's the thing on both sides of it. Number one, black women are never gonna change if black men are not really willing to walk away. You're not even gonna see that. And number two, if you want black men to walk away, that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen by just going scorched earth. Scorched earth is a necessary component, but it's not the only component. This is why in the Matrix they all used to say after people got to a certain age they wouldn't unplug them. You know why? Because they can't handle it. And yo, this is Kevin. If Kevin Samuels hasn't proven anything, he's proven that. The stuff after he passed has proven that. These dudes are gonna have to be walked down that lane. And Dr. Thunder is a necessary component to that as well. This is one of the reasons why I always go back and forth with SWP, because SWP is necessary. Because if everybody is saying they're all bad, they're all bad, they're all bad, what's going to happen is they're going to naturally just recoil from that, because that goes too deep against their socialization. And I don't care how mad people want to get. I don't care that's just the truth. And that's not to say that someone has to be more balanced. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. David Carroll, the only person David Carroll positively acknowledged was Obsidian. And Obsidian would talk to black women and do the back and forth. Obsidian wouldn't go as far as to throw all black women under the bus, but David Carroll would. And so in this space, the reason why I wanted to do this video is you have two mentalities. You have the accountable commentary mentality, and you have Dr. Thunder's mentality. It may not be based in Christianity, but it's based in, yeah, you have to make a hard line, and hold that line. But ultimately, what are we gonna do if we just throw all black women under the bus? You have those two mentalities, and that's what kind of the current state of this space is. Unfortunately, the YouTube money is in the mentality Dr. Thunder has. And I'm not, money is not my primary aspect. It's not Dr. Thunder's primary aspect with doing this either. Because there'd be other things that could be done that could make more money. But guys like that, both of these guys are necessary. Guys like Dr. Thunder is necessary. Because there are some dudes that they're just not going to get there. If I throw only logical and accountable commentary at dudes, they're going to freeze up. And they're gonna freeze up, and quite frankly, it'll be quicker to wean them into it. Meaning a guy like SWP, a guy like Dr. Thunder, because he acknowledges the obvious, and then it primes them to hear somebody like accountable commentary, to hear someone. Now, the problem with people with Dr. Thunder is Dr. Thunder has the Christian aspect to it, and that informs his view of things. And because that informs his view of things and his audience's view of things, that can create more interference. But taking that out of that, when it comes to him, comes to clinician, folks that are on more on that side of it, they prime them dudes up to hear somebody more like me, somebody like accountable commentary. And so these are both necessary pieces of the argument. Unfortunately, even in 2025, where all the things that black women are ultimate like overtly doing, you still got dudes that apparently need their hand held to the promised land. And at this point, people say, "Well, why do you do that?" Well, because we need to grow. We need to grow more black men understanding this, because this is a group problem. This is not a problem that's going to be solved in individual situations. And when I say solved, I'm talking about black men have a raising of their collective consciousness, so black men start learning to operate within a group, each other, independent of what the women are doing, because that's the problem. The women are being funded by white supremacy, by feminism, and men, and to meet that, men are going to have to meet that as a group. And there's going to have to be a certain politicking that men are going to have to, black men are going to have to learn to do with each other. They just are. And there's a lot of black men and they get in the hyper individual syndrome, and they act like they can't work with nobody. And I mean, yeah, for their own personal stuff, I mean, that may work. But as far as what it's going to mean to really deal with this, even if the goal is raising black men's consciousness, I hate to say that because that sounds really pro blacky, but you get what I'm talking about. Even if the goal is not to necessarily, have to deal with Keisha, to negotiate, for black men are going to have to certain level of autonomy and be unapologetic about it. That requires a group effort. And so, anyway, I wanted to put that out there. I didn't intend for this to be 31 minutes, but I wanted to put this out there. Let me know what you think. Have you heard about this back and forth? Have you listened to Accountable Commentary's response, Dr. Thunder's response? What are you? Do you agree more with Dr. Thunder? Do you agree more Accountable Commentary? I'll link their videos in the description below. Again, if you're new to my channel, this is kind of what I call an Edward Andersonism. I'll be doing these like probably every other day, these videos where I get more philosophical conversations. It's not necessarily trending news heavy and stuff like that. I'm gonna have a playlist below of the Edward Anderson isms and stuff like that. I hate to use the term ism, but you know how you all are, so whatever. Make sure you hit the subscription button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. If you all like me just going in, I typically go in on my live streams, which I do in my car, or on on StreamYard. Make sure you hit the descriptions, the links in the descriptions below. Check in with a like, check out with a comment, let your voice be heard. And yeah, check out, I got a Discord going on, I got a Patreon going on as well. And with that being said, this is Edward signing off. Peace.